Frustration local leaders have experienced with dealing with the feds, particularly in the case of enforcing statutes and deporting criminals from the freely associated states. And after months of exchanges with the federal government, Vice Speaker B.J. Cruz is now calling on the Attorney General of Guam for some assistance.
I'm hoping that the Attorney General can review those cases and see whether or not we can establish our own our own implementation of the Immigration Act, not our own law, but the implementation of it.
In a letter sent earlier this week, Cruz asked Attorney General Leonardo Rapadas to determine legal action to force the feds to increase deportation actions against FAS criminals detained in Guam. He also requests Rapadas to identify local criminal laws that may impede the deportation process.
In concept, I support it, but there are a lot of details that a lot of people are missing.
In reviewing the statutes of how deportation can work, A.G. Rapadas says his personal experience with local ICE officials is far different from Cruz's experience with the feds.
They've assisted us, and we've been reporting to them the different aliens and criminal aliens that should fall under their purview. And that's happened. In fact, over the last week or so, I was looking at at least one defendant we were looking at on a list. And I was looking at the end of the list, and it said deported by ICE.
Rapadas, meanwhile, says he'll review Cruz's request in looking into the extent of Governor Eddie Calvo's Organic Act's authority to enforce all laws of the U.S. applicable to Guam in the absence of federal enforcement. The governor's chief policy advisor, Arthur Clark, says he'll wait to see what comes of the AG's review.
I think he's trying to take the angle that the law exists, the agency exists, but he's defining the lack of enforcement as being the lack of will to enforce as opposed to the lack of presence.
Clark says he can understand Cruz's frustration, having sat in those very conversations with the feds who last month stated they would not put the law into effect as it would be a waste of resources. As for deportation itself, Clark says he supports Cruz's efforts in asking the AG for help.
Again, we want to make clear that it's dangerous to paint everybody with the same wide brush. So I want to make clear that in this particular instance, our focus was on convicted criminals who are not contributing to our society and actually have been a drain. And we'd like to see the law used in that aspect to get some of these felons off of our island and reduce the impact that that's having on us.
Cruz says he will seek the assistance of his colleagues in securing the support needed to address U.S. ICE's ongoing disregard of the law and its regulations. Rapadas, meanwhile, says along with deportation, he also wants to ensure that the voices of the victims of these crimes are heard as well. Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Ken Quintanilla.